Hey there, welcome back to Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube. Please subscribe. Today we're going to talk about broiler production numbers in the U.S. and we're going to take a look at the 3-week-old flock that we have here at our little farm, Twin Oaks Farm Poultry. It's Melissa. Thank you for joining us here at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please help us out with growing our channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 viewers, and all the help with the subscribes, views, likes, comments, it all helps us out. So thank you. So like I said, today we are just looking at the 3-week-old flock that we have here. They're halfway through their production. Going to give you some numbers on their feed consumption and where we're at on our flock survival rate at this point. Also, before that, want to talk about broiler numbers throughout the U.S. So I'm just throwing around that word broiler. Hopefully we all know when we say broiler, we're basically referring to just a young chicken that's produced for meat, for human consumption. So that's pretty much all that broiler really means. It can take on different specifics if you want to get really technical, but broiler is basically just a young chicken raised for meat. So in the United States, annually, there's approximately 9 billion broilers produced. So taking into consideration the production cycle for broilers, which is fairly short, fairly quick, anywhere from 5 weeks to 8 weeks, that means that at any given time, there's probably about 1 billion broilers in production in the United States. And so the 5 states in the United States that are the top broiler producers include Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, North Carolina, and Mississippi. So a lot of broiler production from those states. Overall though, all chicken production, I believe the #1 state is actually Iowa. Ohio, the state I'm in, is second. And then I believe it's Illinois, and then Pennsylvania, and then Georgia. Not real sure on that. I'll have in the description the references that are citations for those numbers. But it's just interesting to kind of research that broiler production, and I want to check into it like throughout the world, different countries. But our flock here, 3 weeks old, we started off with 304 broilers in this flock. It is the last flock in production for the first half of 2023 for us. We're in rural Southeast Ohio, USA, and we have lost about 9 birds out of this flock. And I don't mean to sugarcoat that. I know I say we lost. Well, yes, the reality is they died. There was mortality. We found them already dead when we came out, for a barn check. And that happens. And so I want to go ahead and say, anytime we're dealing with livestock for meat production, the harsh reality is that at the end of that process, they go to slaughter and they are processed into a meat product. The other harsh reality is that we lose some along the way during production, and they die from natural causes. Most of the time in general, the ones that die before production is finished are ones that were smaller and weaker and runts, and we still did everything we could to try to make them strong and to keep them thriving, but they just didn't have the same immunity and strength that the other, in this case, birds had to make it to the end of the production cycle. So I don't mean to sugarcoat that, but it's, it discourages us to lose birds too. So, and lose any livestock too. But as a farmer, as a steward of the livestock, they do have one bad day, but we try to make the rest of the days the best that we can. And we need to be aware, if we're producers, we need to be aware of our capacity, of our limits of our resources, and don't go beyond that. So, like if we have capacity to raise 500 birds at a time, we shouldn't order 750 at a time, and likewise, if we're raising for home consumption, don't order 150 or 200 chicks at one time. If 50 will get your family through the year, order 60 or 75. So know our capacity as producers, know our goal as producers. Those are ways that we're good stewards to our animals too. So going to turn the camera around and actually look at the birds and let you see the 3-week-old birds. We've finished barn chores. They are resting, so we've put in feed, we've put in water, and this is an exciting time in raising birds because at 3 weeks old we can generally start to tell, are we looking at roosters or hens in the individuals, because we order straight run, so we get guys and we get gals. And just visually, before about this time, we really can't tell who is who. Here's a pair that this one in the front, closest to us, that looks like a hen. And the next one there looks like a rooster. And the difference that I'm looking at is the comb on top of the head is more prominent on that one than on this one. So that's the point of comparison that we generally have. There is a way to tell by like pulling the wing out straight and looking at how the feathers contour the wing, and you can tell that real early on. But in general, I'll tell you the truth, we actually try not to handle the birds a whole lot, especially in these first few weeks, other than getting them out of their shipping box and introducing them to water. Other than that, we try to avoid picking them up, because you can see where these feathers are coming in and they're still trying to feather. So where those feathers come in, that's like a pin feather coming through the skin, and if that gets disturbed, it creates a boo-boo, it creates a sore place, and it is a little bit painful for the bird and it will bleed. So we don't want to do that. So we generally don't pick them up a lot, because we don't want to hurt where the feathers are coming in. And also, we don't ever want to turn anything in our barn into a chase with our birds. We want to minimize wing flapping, because we don't want them bruising their own meat. We also want to minimize wing flapping in the goal of trying to minimize dust. There's already a lot of dust in a barn setting, and we don't want excessive dust for the health of the birds and the health of the human handlers too. So when you have a lot of dust flying around, if there's any airborne like fungal spores or mold spores, that can infect humans and animals with respiratory distress. So we don't want that. So I did want to tell you before we wrap up that these birds, 3 weeks old, they have consumed, we've just poured in the conclusion of 1,000 pounds of feed this evening. So at 3 weeks old, we have given these birds 1,000 pounds of feed. That includes what's in the feeders now. So that's an interesting number that I wanted to share with you. We're going to wrap this one up, and we hope that you'll join us again back here at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry in the barn. We appreciate you. Please subscribe, and we'll see you again back in the barn.